After starting the new year on their longest losing streak of the season, the Tampa Bay Lightning hope to turn the tides at home with an 8 against the Carolina Hurricanes later tonight. We'll break down that game and talk about two Lightning contenders for the Rocket Richard Trophy on today's episode of Locked On Lightning.
You're Locked On Lightning, your daily podcast on the Tampa Bay Lightning, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Josh Sperber here, welcoming all of you into Locked On Lightning and thanking you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And if your team is the Tampa Bay Lightning, then this is the show for you. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we will get started by talking about, the elephant in the room, for lack of a better word. Lightning with two one-goal games in a row. 3 one-goal games in a row. 2-1 losses to the Kings and Sharks and a bigger 4-1 loss, all on the road in their California road trip to start off the new year. Not exactly what the Lightning had in mind, but it is not the first losing streak of the season. And if you go back to the last losing streak, where the Lightning lost 4 in a row, and those are also against some good teams, and some of those streaks, that streak continued with a couple teams that they felt like they should have beaten. The fourth game of the Lightning's longest losing streak of the season was a home loss against the Philadelphia Flyers, 2-1 in a shootout where the Lightning did not put a goal in net in said shootout. It's a little bit different in this game because the Carolina Hurricanes are in playoff position in the Metropolitan Division. They are one of 5 Eastern Conference teams with over 50 points through 40 or more games in the season. The Capitals, though, at 55 after playing just 39, they are red hot. They lead that Metropolitan Division. And the Lightning, 8 points behind the Hurricanes. But again, the Lightning in 4th in their division, and they are leading the wild card race right now. So it's a little bit different. On paper, the Flyers are a team that you'd expect the Lightning to beat 9 times out of 10, and that just was the 1 time out of 10. This is a Lightning, a battle of 2 playoff teams. I mean, these are 2 teams that you expect to be among the wild card squad, the Jake Gensel Bowl, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's a different 4th game on a potential 4th game losing streak, but especially at home, I feel like the Lightning have just played better when their backs are against the wall and they're playing good teams. A couple of tough losses in a row back later in November. After that losing streak, they lost 2 more games, one on the road, one at home to Columbus and the Stars. They then beat the Avalanche 8-2. After that 4-game losing streak, teetering on the edge of Andrei Vasilevsky's 300th career win, they got that 300th career win for Vasi with a 4-1 win over the league best then and, well, still now, Winnipeg Jets. So I feel like at home, the Lightning especially have played their better hockey against contending teams. I don't want to say that they played down to the opponent because I don't think that's always true. I think it's, especially with all the injuries, it's hard to really say the Lightning have played 2 games alike over the course of the season. But when you look at some of their games at home, they have really stepped up against some good teams. That game against the Avalanche is certainly one that comes to mind. They had a 3-0 win against the Capitals earlier in the season with Alex Ovechkin. The overtime win against Stamkos and the Predators, I mean, that's a tough one. The first 2 home games of the season against the Canucks and the Golden Knights. I mean, the Lightning, I feel like, have played, for the most part, better teams at home than they have on the road this season. Obviously, there's some crossovers, but, I mean, you look at some of these home wins, the 300th game, the 300th career win, and what ended up being the 301st in the celebration. of said victory against two of the best teams in the league right now, Devils and the Jets, combined 8-1 wins on a Thursday and a Saturday back in November. December, they ran over just about everybody at home. And now they're in danger of losing their fifth straight game, which would be their longest streak of the season. And I think this game against Carolina is one that the Lightning really want to win. I don't think it's, not like that's much different than normal. Obviously, this is a winning team. This is a playoff caliber team. They're full of guys who want to just win games night in, night out. And you could see the frustration at the back end of this losing streak. But I mean, the way John Cooper talks about it, he said that there are some stretches of the season where you're on a winning streak and not playing well. And then there's a stretch like the Lightning are on right now where they're running into just some really solid goalies and they're getting beat by those goalies, despite how well they play. The Lightning have shot over 70 shots over the course of the last two games, and they have lost each of those last two games. They're going against Pyotr Kochetkov, who is just outside the top 10 in goals allowed average this season. Certainly a solid goaltender, but he's a guy the Lightning already got the better of this season. So I think this is definitely kind of a winnable game on the other end of that losing streak, but it's hard to say. It's hard to really say if there's a worse losing streak than the other, just with the timing of this right now, just starting with the new year, starting this losing streak with a loss against a divisional opponent always hurts. And then the Sharks are a team that you'd expect to beat. And then the Ducks, another team that you'd expect the Lightning to beat the Lightning the worst of any team on this streak, with that possible exception of the Canadiens. But 3 straight games with just 1 goal, I don't think is a commonality. It seems like just a fluke, an aberration, just a rough stretch for the Lightning where they're running into some good goalies and their shots just aren't finding the back of the net. Like John Cooper said, that's going to happen sometimes. I mean, that's hockey. You've got great talent on both sides of the ice, and sometimes, a great offensive attack is going to be enough, and sometimes it's not. And it hasn't seemed to have been enough for the Lightning. And I think coming back home, just on the end of this losing streak, it's one thing to lose the first game of a 4-game streak at home. I mean, that, just losing a game at home, that's going to happen sometimes, especially when that game against the Canadiens coming off of a 6-2 win against the Rangers. I mean, it stings a little bit, but I don't think it's just that affecting the Lightning. It's just been, Gibson, especially in that game against the Ducks, was just unstoppable. I think that was certainly acknowledged by some of the players, and John Cooper even talked about how good of a game he had. Just one of those games that it's tough to beat. And the Lightning and the Hurricanes have won 5 in their last 10. One of the losses was an overtime for Carolina. So, I mean, these are two teams at kind of similar stretches in the season. And right now, Carolina is just won just about every other game they played in their last 10. The Lightning are coming off of a solid run where they won 5 of 6, and then they have now lost 4 in a row. It's just a tough point in the season for the Lightning, and I think this losing streak has to sting a little bit more than the one in November. You look at the teams that the Lightning played in November. Minnesota and Winnipeg are the first two. The Blues, they ended up getting revenge on. That's a team you'd like to see them beat. The Flyers, a team you'd like to see them beat. And you look at this recent losing streak, and it's similarly spaced out in terms of strength of schedule. There's some teams in there, like the Kings are one of the better teams in the Western Conference right now. The Canadiens, while they might be down in the standings, they have been on a bit of a heater lately with Patrick Laine coming back. They're starting to, make themselves a dark horse contender for a wild card spot. And just, the injuries certainly don't help. Not having J.J. Moser in the lineup has proved to be difficult at times for Tampa Bay. But, just I think just starting off the year with 3 straight losses, and in most of the situations, if you look at those games, the of the losing streak. Maybe not the Canadians, probably not the Ducks, but I'd still say the Ducks. I'd say at least the 3 games in 2025, the Lightning were in all of them. And they're winnable games. And you just hope that the Lightning can turn the tide at home. And, in that 50-50 kind of situation, in one of the times where each team is playing well, it's a tie score at the midpoint of the game or something like that. You just hope that the Lightning can get something to their advantage and use home ice to their advantage. And that is what we're going to be talking about next. Carolina is on the mind of the Lightning players as they take on the Hurricanes for the second time this season. We're going to preview that game as the Lightning look for their first win in 2025. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. And for tomorrow's odds against Carolina, the Tampa Bay Lightning are currently the underdogs at plus 102. Over under is set at 6.5, with the puck line in favor of the Hurricanes at minus 1.5. Though fan predictions are coming in favor of the Lightning. And it is certainly slated to be a good game, judging by those FanDuel odds. And you can visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with that $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, the second time this season the Tampa Bay Lightning are taking on the Carolina Hurricanes. It was the Lightning opener, right around the time of Hurricane Milton. Lightning beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-1. They've got one more game. This is the only game that the Lightning play against Carolina in Tampa, and another game that they will play in Carolina in March. Nikita Kucherov with a natural hat trick in the third period, including a pair of empty netters, and Braden Point with a game-tying power play goal for the first Bolts goal of the season. Lightning scored the final 4 goals in that one, despite getting outshot 11-4 in the second period, and 2 of their goals came on power plays, 1 from Point and 1 from Nikita Kucherov. And it's going to be that power play penalty kill that is going to be a big, big deal. The Carolina Hurricanes penalty kill is at 85%, second in the NHL. The Tampa Bay Lightning have the third best power play percentage, marking on 26.4% of their power plays. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes 10th in power play percentage at 23. The Lightning's penalty kill 11th at 82. So that is just, it's going to be really decisive. I think if the Lightning can steal a power play goal against this penalty kill, then that can be huge. And that was what really showed. I mean, that Braden Point goal in the second period just deflated Little Novo Center at the start of the season. And certainly Kucherov's did as well. That go-ahead goal in the third period ended up being the game-winning goal for Kucherov as well. And, of course, he certainly wasn't done yet. So I think if the Lightning can get another power play goal or 2, then they're going to be in business. I think that is going to be key. I think Jay Gensel is someone who Lightning are going to watch out for. He had 2 assists in that opening day win, obviously with some experience playing on these Carolina Hurricanes. Gensel, he knows the system. He knows some of the players, made a solid playoff run with that team last year. So, I mean, having that is certainly important and can certainly help, but I think it's really going to come down to the Lightning offense. These are teams that are very even in terms of goals allowed per game. Carolina with 0.01 advantage in that average over the Lightning. They are 10th, the Lightning 11th, while the Lightning are first in goals for, 6th in goals against. And this could be a shootout. It was a 4-1 game. 2 of those are empty netters in the first one, but I mean, a lot of things changed from the beginning of the season to January. And we're almost at the halfway point of the year, and you're looking at two of the better offensive teams in the entire NHL. I'd expect Vasilevsky to be a net for the Lightning, and I think that is always a good thing. Certainly one of the best goalies in the league and a definite game changer, and a guy who made 20 of 21 saves and it did not allow a shot in after that first period. That's always going to be a big plus. I think Kochetkov's a solid goalie, but if it comes down to a shootout and which goalie is going to make the big saves, I'm putting my money on Andrei Vasilevsky every single time. So I think the Lightning can take the goalie battle, but it's just a matter of getting those pucks on net. They had a couple of days off after the road trip just to kind of get themselves back. And again, I think that having home ice is going to be important for Tampa. I think especially when they're tied for their longest losing streak of the season at a pretty critical juncture. I mean, we're about at the midway point, and there are teams that can really make or break their playoff seeding at this point of the year. And with the Lightning playing a lot of games this month, and the Lightning having 3 to 5 games in hand on everyone in front of them, including the Bruins, who they play at home on Thursday. We're going to have a long conversation about that one, because I think at this point in the year, that Bruins game might be the most important game of the season to this point. That's not to detract anything from this Hurricanes game, because I think the Lightning really need to win this. I think the best medicine for the Lightning now is just taking this game, whether it's, a game-winning goal in the dying seconds of the third period or just an absolute wash that the Lightning have controlled from the beginning. They need to win this game against Carolina. You can't go into a divisional battle where they play the Bruins, the team ahead of them in the standings, with some games in hand in favor of the Lightning, might I add. You don't want to go into that game on a loss. And they've got just back-to-backs, just games pretty much every other day, with 2-3 more back-to-backs over the next 3 weeks. I mean, this is just a tough stretch for Tampa, and it has already not started well. That's not something that the Lightning can change. But a win here, I think, can really turn things around in what's going to prove to be a pretty tough stretch of this. You've got a couple of divisional teams coming in. The Red Wings are going to be in town. The Bruins, obviously. The Hurricanes, not a divisional team, but a playoff team. I mean, the Lightning are playing good teams in this stretch. And sometimes it just takes one win. Doesn't matter if it's a win going away or an ugly one. Just getting a win can just turn the tide. And I think doing that against Carolina would really set the tone for the rest of this trip. It's another game I think they need to win, that Thursday game at home against the Bruins, before another showdown with the Devils, who the Lightning have had their number for the most part this season, but that's still not going to be an easy place to play. And then they're going right to Pittsburgh after that, who is right in between buying and selling in the trade deadline before they face Boston again. I mean, the Lightning have a lot of games in a row, and a win against Carolina would be a great way to start it off. So I'm looking for a Lightning power play goal, because I genuinely think if only one team gets a power play goal, that's the team that's going to take this game. I think that is definitely going to be what I'm watching closest, the special teams just taking advantage of any mistakes that these teams make. But I think Lightning really just need kind of a tone-setting win. They need to get their offense back on track. Best goal-scoring team in the league right now. But over the past 3 games, not so much. Over their 4-game losing streak, they have scored 5 goals. 2 goals against the Canadiens, 1 goal in each of the last 3 games on the California road trip. And that, first and foremost, is what the Lightning need to fix. This is an offensive-minded team. We've talked about their strong offensive identity time and time again. They've got the best first line in hockey with Gensel, Point, and Kucherov. The Lightning need to score more goals. And I know that's a lot easier to say from my perspective, from your guys' perspective, than it is to see what's going on the ice, because, you put up 2 games with over 30 shots, outshoot your opponent by double digits, you're going to expect to win those games, but it just didn't happen. So hopefully Kochetkov doesn't go on a heater like the last couple goalies the Lightning in the face had. But I think that with the fan support, I think this is going to be just a big turnaround game for the Lightning. It's definitely a must-win game at this point. You got to reverse the losing streak, and you just got to beat good teams at home. And that is what the Lightning have to do. Their work is cut out for them. You know, they can't make it a 5-game losing streak. They got to just nip into the bud right now. And I'm expecting a lot of goals in this one. I think the Lightning just, are just due. They're just due for pucks to start going in, and it's got to happen in the game tonight. And I think it will, and I'm thinking the Lightning are not going to go on a 5-game losing streak. 2 players who might be scoring goals in tonight's game, Braden Point and Jake Guentzel, the 2 Lightning leaders in goals and among the candidates for the Rocket Richard Trophy as the NHL's best goal scorer. We'll talk about that race when we return. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? Well, that has definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one convenient place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services that I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future, which means no more stressing about budgeting every month. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Look at the link below and cancel your unwanted subscriptions today by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Some of you might be wondering why the Rocket Richard race is on here. Right now, Leon Draisaitl of the Edmonton Oilers has a pretty commanding lead in the Rocket Richard race. 29 goals. Then Braden Point is in a 5-way tie for second, and Jake Guentzel is in a 2-way tie for ninth with 23 goals for Point, 21 for Jake Guentzel. As you might guess, those are the top 2 Lightning goal scorers this season. And we're going to talk about which one of them, if any of them, is more likely to win the Rocket Richard Trophy. And there was a point where at the beginning of the month where the beginning of December, I think, where Braden Point, or some point in December, where Braden Point was, within a couple of goals of Draisaitl. And Leon's having a really good goal scoring season. He's on a run right now, but we've seen Point go on those kind of runs. Guentzel had, the longest goal streak of the NHL season, getting goals in 8 straight games. One of the longest in recent years as well. I think if I'm going to pick one of them to have the best chance of the Rocket Richard race, I'm going to say Point. No disrespect to Guentzel's shooting. He's got a really nice snapshot, especially. But, Braden Point has turned into an elite goal scorer. And something that I will always defend Braden Point on is his ability in front of the net. I don't think there is a better player in the NHL at picking up loose pucks and putting them in the back of the net from in close. That is what Braden Point does better than anyone. And Jake Guentzel is just so good at creating space with his stick handling, with his passing, and just finding little gaps and sneaking in there to get himself goals. So I think in terms of the volume, Point's had a number of multi-goal games this season. I feel like Guentzel is, he'll get a goal here and there. But just comparing to Point, I don't think that Guentzel is a better shooter than Braden is. I think Braden just has a nose for the goal in a way that very few other players in the NHL do. And I think Gensel is maybe a better distributor than Point is. But when it comes to just straight goal scoring, I think of any of these guys, unless Kucherov can go on some crazy run, which is always a possibility, I think it's going to be Braden Point at the top of the Lightning score sheet. But there's a possibility that you could see 250 goal scorers this season. Point is just about on track for that with the amount of games Lightning have played. Gensel a little bit behind that. But both of them are on track for a 50-goal range. And it's not every day that you see two 50-goal scorers on the same team. Lightning have had a couple of close calls. They had multiple 40-goal scorers in the last year's team. I think 3 with Point, Stammer, and Kucherov. And now they could have 4 or 5 players in the 40-goal range easily. I think, maybe even 6. Cirelli could get to 40 goals this year. I think he'll be just outside of it. But I think that right now, if you look at the top 4 goal-scoring leaders for the Lightning, you've got Point, Gensel, and then Hagel and Kucherov are tied at 3rd with 17. I think all those 4 guys are scoring 40-plus goals this season. Cirelli, I'm going to say he'll probably get 20 more goals minimum. I don't know if he will hit 40. But 3 potential 40-goal scorers and maybe 2 50-goal scorers. Braden Point, I think, is going to hit 50 goals this season. That is my prediction for him. He's going to finish with 50 goals. Gensel, I think, will have 47. It'll be close, but I think Point will have the slight edge. Right now, it certainly doesn't look like he's going to get the Rocket Richard Trophy. It's a possibility, though. I think we've seen Point scored in bunches, and especially in clutch situations, he can really step up, and the games only get more and more meaningful for the Lightning. Playoff races, divisional races, all of it. That's starting to take shape right now, and the Lightning are in the thick of it. And I think they have a Rocket Richard contender. They have an Art Ross contender in Kucherov, and maybe even Point with the way that he has been playing lately with his passing. But I mean, I think that Braden Point is definitely the most likely Lightning player to reach the 50-goal threshold and get the Rocket Richard Trophy. It's something we've talked about a little bit before, but yeah, he's 6 goals behind. There was a time where he was even further behind the leaders, and you never know what can happen. I think if anyone is going to do it, it's going to be Braden Point. I think that is a very real possibility. Gensel, though, should not be counted out. Who knows if he goes off on another 8-game goal streak. The Point has dramatically improved his passing this year. He is he's on track for not just a career high in goals, but a career high in assists as well. His goal scoring career high was 51 a couple years ago, and his assist career high was also 51. He could have a 50-50 season. Right now, 23 goals, 22 assists in 33 games. Pretty darn good. And Point also needs 2 more points to get to 600. That is something that I would love to see him do against Carolina. I could definitely see some multiple goals, but yeah, he's got an outside shot. I think Point, if anyone on the Lightning is lifting the Rocket Richard Trophy, it's Braden Point. I think 50 goals are a very real possibility for him. The Rocket Richard Trophy, who knows? But he is certainly going to be in the running for it. And Braden Point has really impressed me this season. And if he wasn't already, you've got to consider him as one of the best offensive players in the league. He has just really flashed elite ability at every level and is developing into a bona fide superstar for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And that is where we will end today's episode. Drop your guys' prediction for the games. We're on X at LO_Lightning. And please give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe on whatever service you decide to listen on, or if you watched on YouTube. But I want to thank all of you for making Locked On Lightning your first listen today and every day. Now, for your second listen, make sure to check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. And again, please remember to give us a like, a follow, and a subscribe. We really appreciate your guys' support. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Lightning. We'll have live action on our X account. I'll be at the game tonight when the Lightning take on the Carolina Hurricanes. So feel free to interact with us on there if you want to chat Bolts hockey during the game. Thank you again for watching, and please have a great night. And don't forget, go Bolts.